It's your wedding day. You're walking down the aisle in your dream dress, everything's perfect, and then you see her, your mother-in-law, standing in the front row wearing a white ball gown with a veil at your wedding. But that's not even the worst part. Wait until you hear what she did during the ceremony. This is the story of Emma, a 28-year-old teacher, and her wedding day from absolute hell. What started as a fairy tale celebration turned into a nightmare when her mother-in-law Patricia decided she wasn't just going to attend the wedding, she was going to be the wedding. And when Emma tried to handle it quietly, Patricia made sure everyone knew exactly who she thought the real bride should be. What happened next destroyed a family, ended a marriage, and left one person in jail. So get ready, because this gets ugly fast. Emma and David had been together for 4 years, high school sweethearts who made it work through college, long distance, career changes, the whole 9 yards. Emma was head over heels, and David, he seemed perfect. Supportive, funny, the kind of guy who remembered your coffee order and never forgot an anniversary. There was just one problem: his mother, Patricia. Patricia was a 52-year-old divorced real estate agent who had never gotten over her own failed marriage. She lived alone in a house that looked like a museum. Everything white, everything pristine, everything screaming, "Look at how successful I am." But here's the thing about Patricia. She didn't just love her son. She was obsessed with him. David was her baby boy, her little prince, her soulmate. Yeah, she actually called her adult son her soulmate. Red flags? Emma saw them, but David would just laugh it off. That's just how mom is, he'd say. She's protective. Protective was one word for it. Creepy was another. From day one, Patricia made it clear that no woman would ever be good enough for her David. She'd make little comments about Emma's cooking, her career choices, her family background, always with a smile, always followed by, "I'm just looking out for David's best interests." But Emma loved David, so she put up with it. She figured once they got married, Patricia would have to accept reality and back off. She was about to learn just how wrong she was. When David proposed in March 2023, Emma was over the moon. They set the date for October. Plenty of time to plan the perfect fall wedding. Emma had been dreaming about this day since she was little. Rustic venue, autumn colors, intimate ceremony with 80 of their closest friends and family. Patricia had other ideas. First, she insisted on being involved in every decision. And I mean every decision. The flowers weren't good enough, the venue was too casual, the caterer was second-rate. Emma tried to be diplomatic, but Patricia wasn't taking suggestions. She was making demands. "Sweetheart," Patricia would say in that syrupy voice, "I just want David's special day to be perfect." David's special day, not Emma and David's. But the real red flag came when they went dress shopping. Emma found her dream dress, simple, elegant, vintage lace. She felt like a princess. But when she stepped out of the dressing room, Patricia's face went white. "Oh no, honey," Patricia said, shaking her head. "That's not right for you at all. David likes more traditional looks." Traditional? Emma looked like she stepped out of a fairy tale. But Patricia was already pulling dresses off racks. These would be better, more appropriate for your figure type. Every dress Patricia picked was either too big, too conservative, or just plain ugly. It was like she was trying to make Emma look bad on purpose. Emma ended up buying her original dress anyway, but as she was leaving the shop, she heard Patricia on the phone in the parking lot. "Don't worry, David. I'll make sure everything's perfect for your big day. You deserve a princess wedding. Even if." Emma couldn't hear the rest, but the tone said everything. The week before the wedding, Patricia kicked her manipulation into overdrive. She called David crying about being excluded from wedding decisions. She showed up at Emma's apartment unannounced to help with final preparations. She kept making comments about how different Emma's family was. But the breaking point came 3 days before the wedding. Emma was at the venue doing a final walkthrough when her phone rang. It was Patricia. "Emma, sweetheart, I have a tiny little favor to ask." Emma should have hung up right there. "I know this is unconventional, but I was wondering if I could walk down the aisle before you. As David's mother, I feel like I should have a special entrance, something to honor my role in his life." Emma blinked. "Patricia, the mothers are already being seated in the front row. That's your special moment." "Well, yes, but I was thinking something more ceremonial. Maybe I could wear something white to symbolize the purity of a mother's love?" White? To a wedding? Emma felt her blood pressure spike. "Patricia, guests don't wear white to weddings. It's considered— Oh, I know the old rules, dear, but this is different. This is about family, about David knowing his mother supports this transition. Transition? Like David was dying instead of getting married." Emma took a deep breath. "I appreciate your enthusiasm, but I think the traditional processional is perfect." There was silence. Then Patricia's voice went ice cold. "Emma, I think you're being very selfish. This is David's day too, and his mother should be honored appropriately. But I suppose some people weren't raised to understand proper family values." And she hung up. Emma stared at her phone, hands shaking. But she told herself Patricia was just emotional, stressed. She'd calm down by the wedding day. She had no idea what Patricia was actually planning. October 14th, 2023, Emma's wedding day. She woke up feeling like the luckiest woman alive. The weather was perfect, the venue looked magical, and in a few hours, she'd be Mrs. Emma Martinez. Emma was getting ready with her bridesmaids when her maid of honor, Jessica, burst into the bridal suite, face white as a sheet. "Emma, we have a problem." "What kind of problem?" Jessica held up her phone. On the screen was a photo from the parking lot. Patricia stepping out of her car, wearing a full-length white ball gown. Not ivory, not cream. Wedding dress white, with beading and a train. "Please tell me this is a joke," Emma whispered. But it got worse. As they watched through the window, Patricia walked toward the venue entrance, and Emma saw the final touch that made her stomach drop. A veil. A full-length cathedral veil with lace trim. Patricia wasn't just wearing white to Emma's wedding. She was wearing a complete bridal ensemble. Emma's hands were shaking as she called David. "Your mother is wearing a wedding dress to our wedding."
"What? That can't be right. Let me—"
"David, I'm looking at her right now. She's in full bridal gear, veil and everything." Silence. Then David's voice, tight with panic. "I'll handle this. Don't worry about it. Today is about us." But as Emma watched Patricia glide into the venue like she owned the place, she knew this was just the beginning. The processional started normally. The wedding party looked beautiful, the music was perfect, and for a moment, Emma forgot about Patricia's stunt, until she reached the altar and saw the front row. There was Patricia, sitting in the seat reserved for the mother of the groom, looking like a competing bride. But here's the sick part. She wasn't just sitting there quietly. She was posing, adjusting her veil, smoothing her dress, making sure everyone could see her. Emma tried to focus on David, on their vows, on their moment. But every time she glanced at the audience, there was Patricia, practically glowing in her white gown. Then came the part where the officiant asked if anyone objected to the union. Patricia didn't stand up. She didn't speak. But she did something worse. She started crying. Loud, dramatic, attention-grabbing sobs that echoed through the entire venue. Everyone turned to look at her, this grieving woman in white, mourning the loss of her son. David looked mortified. Emma felt humiliated. But the officiant pressed on, trying to salvage the ceremony. Until Patricia fainted. Not a gentle swoon, a full-body collapse that required 3 groomsmen to catch her and carry her outside in her wedding dress that she wore to her son's wedding. But Patricia wasn't done. As they carried her past the altar, she looked right at Emma and whispered just loud enough for the front rows to hear, "I should have been enough for him." They finished the ceremony, but the damage was done. Everyone was talking about Patricia instead of celebrating Emma and David. At the reception, Patricia showed up like nothing had happened, still in her white gown, still wearing her veil. She gave a toast, without being asked. She grabbed the microphone during dinner and started talking about David's childhood, his first girlfriend, how special their relationship was. She talked for 10 minutes about how she taught David how to love and how she hoped his wife would take good care of her baby. Then she did the unthinkable. She asked David to dance. The mother-son dance wasn't scheduled until later, but Patricia didn't care. She pulled David onto the dance floor while Emma sat at the head table watching her husband slow dance with another woman in a wedding dress. That's when Emma snapped. She walked onto the dance floor, tapped Patricia on the shoulder, and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "I think you're confused. This is my wedding, not yours." Patricia smiled, that cold smile, and said, "Oh, honey, I'm not confused at all. I know exactly whose day this really is." Emma had had enough. "Take off the dress." "Excuse me?" "You heard me. Take off the wedding dress. Now." The entire reception went silent. Patricia looked around at all the staring faces, then back at Emma. "I think you're being very emotional, dear. Maybe you should sit down." That's when Emma grabbed Patricia's veil and yanked it off her head. Chaos. Patricia started screaming about assault. Emma's family rushed to defend her. David stood there like a deer in headlights, not knowing whose side to take. The wedding photographer caught it all. Security had to escort Patricia out, still in her white gown, veil clutched in her fists, screaming about how Emma had stolen her son and ruined everything. But the real damage was just beginning. David blamed Emma for embarrassing his mother. Emma blamed David for not stopping Patricia in the first place. They spent their wedding night in separate hotel rooms, arguing through lawyers about whether the marriage was even valid. The photos went viral. Not the romantic wedding shots Emma had dreamed of, but the ones of her ripping a veil off her mother-in-law's head. Patricia sued for assault. Emma countersued for emotional distress and harassment. The marriage lasted 6 weeks. During the divorce proceedings, they found out Patricia had been planning the white dress stunt for months. She'd bought the gown the week after David proposed. She'd had it tailored. She'd practiced her fainting spell. And the sickest part? She'd bought 2 dresses, a backup in case the first one got damaged. Patricia got probation for harassment and had to pay Emma's therapy bills. David moved back in with his mother. They deserved each other. Emma kept her married name just despite them both, then changed it back a year later when she met someone whose mother understood boundaries. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. And when your future mother-in-law calls your fiancé her soulmate, run fast. Because some red flags aren't warnings, they're promises. Feel free to share your own story. Email it to me if you want to stay anonymous, and remember to subscribe for more relatable stories.